Aloha, what is up everybody? I'm Sylvester the Cat here, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of our video game collection video. Because I think previously that Silver the Hedgehog has already accomplished the next video game collection video, and that involves around the PlayStation 2, the best-selling video game consoles of all time, next to Nintendo DS and stuff like that. And I've no idea why I've got my DualShock 3 controller right next to me. This is because I'll explain more about this until any moment. Because today, the next entry of our video game collection video we're going to be hop into. And before we start this off, I do apologize for the lack of uploads during the likes of yesterday. On the 31st of October, just because obviously it was the Halloween night last night. So I thought this was today is obviously the 1st of November. So I thought to myself, yeah, I'm also able to do that. So anyway, the next video game console collection the video game collection video series we're going to be talking about next is the PlayStation. Or some people call it PlayStation 1. And as you can see on screen right here, I'm most able to get myself the PS1 Slim, which actually stands for the forms of, well, a smaller console as far as I like to say for this point. So, okay, sorry for this jump cut, guys, because I'm gonna have to do some research upon what the PlayStation 1 looks like. Obviously, this, not so much this version, but the original PlayStation, first came out in Japan in the 3rd of December in 1994, which I can't even believe it's been about 25 years, or should I say 26, well, almost 26 years, since when the PlayStation 1 was first released. And later on in 1995, for North America, came out in 9th of September in 1995. Europe is 20 days later, and Australia released it on the 15th of November. And I said this before already, not only does it release the original model of the PlayStation, they also managed to release the Slim version, or some people usually call it PS1, as what it says on this console unit right here. And obviously this thing came out in 2000, so... And the reason why I managed to get this because of, you probably guys should know, ever since in our Christmas 2016 unboxing videos if you want to check it out. But I digress. And this, for what I can gather, is the fact that the lifespan of the PlayStation 1 this almost comes close to the PlayStation 2 counterparts, even though that has been lasted for about 12 years. Like, usually it first started in 1994, but then it discontinues in, well, let's just say it discontinues in 2006, which I can't even believe it's been that long. So, and also as far as the forms of the unique selling point, or how much units it sold, it was actually pretty darn close, actually. It was actually roughly 102.49 million units sold, which, that's actually pretty cool. Because the coolest thing about the PlayStation is the fact that I'm pretty sure this is the first ever video game console to able to not only features memory card slots, so that way you can able to save your progress for your game, but it's also that, get this, we actually have ourselves a disc kind of tray, or should I say the disc door. So that way it allows some more developments for the likes of, some CD quality aspects. So, which becomes, pretty staple in PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and even upcoming PlayStation 5. So, but either way though, in fact, this might be a perfect opportunity until PlayStation 5 should be releasing soon enough for this month anyway. But anyway, enough about that. Relatively speaking, is the fact that this particular machine is so unique. Especially noticeable because it's on a CD based, and rather than just import up with cartridge based or something like that. So, and that seems pretty cool stuff though. And you should definitely recommend this. It also has some cool, interesting accessories, like with these holes over there. These are meant to be for the LCD screen, but unfortunately I didn't get to around with those because, well, I just don't feel like owning it. So that's not the reason why we're going to be here for the sake of looking this. Because, let's get into the most important part, the games themselves. Unfortunately though, if you couldn't tell already, it's the fact that this video is going to be significantly short. This is pretty obvious because I didn't exactly collect that much of PlayStation 1 games as much compared to PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 and 4, which I'll get to in a moment soon enough in the future, and even some of the Nintendo games basically. So even then though, I want to point things out, not only do we able to show you guys the physical... Excuse me, I'm really sorry about this point, folks. But not only I'm going to show you guys the physical versions of the PlayStation 1 games that we've already got in our collection, we're also going to be including some of the downloadable software games on the PlayStation 3, as you can see from our DualShock 3 controller right there. So, but of course I will decide to do that in just a moment. So anyway, let's go ahead and let me just press the PS3 button on, even though you can definitely hear it on the background, even though I'm also able to mute the audio right here, so just in case we don't get any much background noise you're going to be hearing. So anyways, onwards to the actual games themselves. Obviously, we'll go for alphabetical order, just like always, and this time we'll do it correctly as opposed to disjointed list compared to any other video game collection videos as far as I'm concerned with that. So anyways, let's get started with the most iconic platformer, in this case a 3D platformer game on the time, Crash Bandicoot. Oh yes, the good old classic game. Even though it's nowhere near as perfect as the follow-up sequels, which is of course Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3, but usually back in the day, usually for about 1996 when that game first came out, everyone was like super hyped about it. Especially noticeable because, this came out the same year as when Super Mario 64 came around. And, yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. And for I've played it, it's actually pretty fun. Even though it does have some very questionable design choices, like the ability to save your game, and also the actual Crash Bandicoot's momentum, or the actual controlling of Crash, can get pretty stiff in some scenarios. But apart from its time, you should probably definitely recommend this. Or, if you guys are able to have the PS4, as well as the Nintendo Switch, or any other modern console platforms out there, you can now get this as in a part of the Insane Trilogy now. But yeah, definitely a pretty cool game, and you should definitely recommend it for those of you are a big fan of Crash Bandicoot stuff. Speaking of such, Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Some people seem to say this is one of the best Crash Bandicoot games, but it's only if we get onto the third one, which I'll discuss more about until then. But usually, relatively speaking, they fixed a lot of issues what the first game had. Because to me, unlike for what I found noticed is the fact that the first game was actually probably my least favorite games of the trilogy, just because of that. The way to 100% the game is ridiculous, that you can't die in any level. Otherwise, if you do die in certain levels, you were able to miss out on gems collecting. But usually, relatively speaking, that's no longer the case for this game. And as far as whenever I play this on the physical version on my PlayStation 1, I absolutely had a blast for it. Even though the backtracking aspect is a bit of a weird side of things, and also getting 100% can get a bit tedium overall by going through like backtracking if you miss out some of those crates and all that stuff though. But the positive things usually just goes wowzers. Like, for instance, the world environments is super unique, and also the actual, you can able to see Coco for the first time as any forms of Crash Bandicoot's sister. So yeah, that seems really cool and awesome at the same time. But yeah, you should definitely recommend this if you managed to able to play it already. Speaking of another Crash Bandicoot game, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. And this is easily the best entry in terms of the Crash Bandicoot games, easily straight off the bat. Even though some people seem to able to agree with this, which just seems pretty obvious because most of these level environments are really, really amazing for likely, specifically like prehistoric times or even Egyptians, and even especially noticeable with like any other world themes that you can able to actually just to interact with. Apparently though, that the version I'm holding in is the PAL version of the game. Some people pointing out is the fact that the PAL version of Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped was actually a bit harder compared to the forms of the other two versions of the game, the Japanese release and the North American release. I'm pretty sure it's because of enemy placements is actually a bit different compared to any other regional versions of it. But hey, at least I had a huge blast with this, and I seriously recommend it. It's definitely one of the best games of the trilogy. Crash Bash. Some people seem to call it Crash Party, which, you know, it might actually feels very similar to Mario Party. And this is not being developed by Naughty Dog or anything like that, because instead it was being developed by Eurocom Entertainment Software, which, it's alright. I mean, the graphics still look a bit, well, passable, despite character models gonna be a little bit goofy in some areas. But it does have some mini games like the pogo stick bouncing, and as well as 3D brawling, as well as tank wars and all that stuff. Even though, for what I've heard about it, is the fact that most people seem to complain about the tedium overall from the adventure mode, or the story mode rather, because it gets super ridiculous with all the gem challenges here and there. And also, I think it's Relics, or I don't know, I think Relics wasn't in this game or something, even though I haven't really looked upon that game that much compared to this superior 3-game trilogy right here, but I digress. But I might also get around to it at some point if I was gonna able to hook up my PlayStation, or fundamentally I can able to play this on the PS3. So even then though, that should be pretty surprising. And there's the last Crash Bandicoot game on the PlayStation. Crash Team Racing, the good old classic kart racer game. Very much like Mario Kart 64, this is the best game on this entire kart racing genre back in the 90s. Even though this was sadly the last Crash Bandicoot game has been made by Naughty Dog, which is kind of sad honestly. Even then, they moved on to the forms of Jak and Daxter series, as well as Uncharted series from the likes of the 2000s. So, but either way though, yeah, I should definitely recommend this. Especially if you have 4 people with you inviting around. Especially if you manage to have yourselves the, what you call it, a multi-tap accessory. No way, you should definitely be able to actually just to play this for like every single moment. And yes, it does have a remake as well, which appears to be Crash Team Racing Nitro Field from the likes of the Nintendo Switch, as well as the PS4 version as well. So yeah, you should definitely recommend this classic racing game. You should definitely so. Disney Pixar Toy Story 2, Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. There are any other versions of this game. There's also the N64 version, which I would say the N64 version to me is one of the weakest version of the game. Probably because of how the fact that it doesn't have this awesome FMV sequences, or in this case, the actual scenes from the movie, because it gets like some, you know, static images, you know, with the one where it shows just Andy not moving at all, which I found was a little bit strange. It's pretty obvious because of the cartridge limitations. But anyway, you guys should know about this because I'm presuming that Piglet has already done this Let's Play back in 2019, which just seems pretty obvious because I can't even believe this film is out for about 21 years old, even for the actual film Toy Story 2, and it still is my favorite of the entire Toy Story saga, which it's very understandable, which, hey, at least that's something I can definitely recommend. So yeah, pretty cool, and you should definitely recommend it. Klonoa, Daughter Phantomile. This game is actually super expensive in not only for America, but also the European countries as well. I'm not exactly sure why, but at least the Japanese version did manage to sell this okay enough. But I have no idea why it just gets super expensive with this. So yeah, you guys should know about this as well, because we did the LP of it back in, or the Let's Play of this game on 2019 as well. So yeah, you should definitely recommend looking that up. And, excuse me, I'm really sorry about this point, folks. As far as what I've played, the original version of Klonoa, in this case Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, I absolutely enjoyed this game. Easily without doubt my favorite PlayStation 1 game I've ever played. Sure, it's a bit difficult compared to the Wii remake, because I'm sure enough the Wii remake becomes pretty easy because of, you have 5 hearts in the Wii version, whilst in this you get 3. So, but at least I enjoy the presentation, as well as the unique aspect of this game is actually 2.5D platformer, which is actually pretty cool to the table. And yeah, I should definitely recommend this. Although, good luck trying to get the physical version of this because it gets super pricey on eBay or Amazon. So yeah, it's good luck trying to get it. Pac-Man World, the one that started it all in terms of, well, the Pac-Man World series. You guys should know about this because, well, obviously we did an LP of this, or the Let's Play of this game, and it's a pretty good start. Even though it's not my favorite Pac-Man World game, that honor goes to Pac-Man World 2 in my opinion. But for what it's worth, it's a really, really good platformer. But I'm sure enough I can able to replay this any day over Pac-Man World 3, because Silver has already pointed out about Pac-Man World 3, how mediocre that game is. So, but yeah, pretty good game, and you should definitely recommend it. And finally, in terms of physical games wise, Rayman, the one that started it all for the likes of the iconic Ubisoft Iconist. Even though despite the one of those workers on the Ubisoft has been, retired for the actual company, which I felt so sorry for Rayman, honestly. Because I would like to see a new Rayman game in action, but unfortunately it stops there, sadly. But hey, the original game, as far as the forms of this particular game is concerned, is really, really good. The presentation is cool, and the level themes does look pretty cool too. Even though the difficulty starts to get ramped up ridiculously once you get to World 3 and onwards. But at least I got into the beginning portion of the game, so because of this though, there's also any other versions of this though, like the Atari Jaguar version, which I think that version came out first before the PlayStation version came around, which is oddly enough. And there's also the Sega Saturn version, as well as the DSiWare version, which I will have to be honest, there's also the iOS version on this as well, but it's been removed completely back in, let's just say in 2017 or something, although I may be wrong. I think it's pretty obvious because of the complicated controller, which you have to utilize the touch screen to able to actually move the actual thing, which is very, very awkward. But easily the iOS version is the weakest version of Rayman, but you should definitely recommend the PlayStation original version because, well, it's iconic. Even though it gets a bit, difficult later on, as I said earlier. So, but I digress. So now we're done with the physical games wise, and now let's move on to the digital games. So either way though, let's press the X button so I will able to just do that. And of course, some of these other games that I've already pointed out already, even though I would like to able to use the capture card for it, but it's a bit busy at the moment. So anyway, I've already mentioned about Toy Story 2, so I know what I'm doing. Spyro the Dragon, the one that started it all in terms of the Spyro the Dragon universe. And for what it's worth, it's actually pretty good, even though I will have to admit that it's one of my least favorites of the entire trilogy. So, the original Rayman, I've already pointed out. Disney's action game featuring Hercules. Oh yes. This is actually one of my favorite films back in the day. And as far as playing the game on the PlayStation, as far as I'm concerned, I actually quite enjoyed it, even though it does get pretty difficult, especially when you're trying to deal with the Hercules mode or something like that, which I'm pretty sure I need to get a little bit more practice with that. Next up we have is Mickey's Wild Adventure, which appears to be the PlayStation version of Mickey Mania, which is basically the 32-bit version of Mickey Mania because of some graphical alterations in particular, as well as CD audio music, as well as sound clips based off from the Sega CD version. And for what it's worth, it's actually a really cool version of the game, despite it gets a bit difficult at points. So yeah, I should definitely recommend it. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and as far as I've heard, easily one of the best Castlevania games ever made. Which I need to get around to that though, even though there's also let's just say a remake that's, well, not so much a remake, but there's a part of this on the actual remake of Rondo of Blood for the PlayStation Portable called the Dracula X Chronicles. Now where you can able to actually play that, but it's actually unlocked, so yeah, that's one of the things out. And I've already mentioned this, so let's move on. Let's go to here. Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer, also known as Repto's Rage, for those of you who lived in America. And what I've noticed is actually really better than the forms of the first game, for sure. But I have no comments on that, sadly, so forgive me on that part. And finally, we have is Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon, which I can't even believe this game is now 2 decades old now. So I digress. I think this is easily one of the best Spyro games ever made, much like, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warps. So, but even then, though, I've already got those 3 games already, so yeah, that's pretty much about it. Let me just zoom out so that I can able to go back to focus. Yep, there we go. So yeah, that concludes our video game collection video for the likes of the original PlayStation. So I hope you guys do enjoy this particular collection. This is me, Sylvester the Cut, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. And I believe next up, in terms of the video game collection video as far as this is concerned, next up it will be PlayStation 3. So this should be pretty exciting because obviously PlayStation 5 is getting really close to release. So see you then. Ciao.